On November 1, 2006, after meeting with his two Russian colleagues at the Polonium Hotel in central London, British citizen Alexander Litvinenko suddenly fell ill with mysterious symptoms. The following days, Litvinenko experienced severe diarrhea and vomiting. At one point, he could not walk without assistance. As the pain intensified, he asked his wife to call an ambulance. He was admitted to Barnet General Hospital in East London. When the authorities learned that he is a former KGB informant and officer of the Russian Federal Security Service, and that he believed he had been poisoned by some of his former colleagues, Litvinenko was transferred to University College Hospital in central London with a police escort. The doctors immediately discovered that Alexander Litvinenko's white blood cell count was catastrophically low, and his bone marrow was failing. Specialist consultants were baffled, but his life was ebbing away. His vital organs were being destroyed in a sequential pattern, starting with his liver, and then was followed very rapidly by his kidneys and then his heart. For several weeks, Litvinenko's condition worsened, as doctors searched for the cause of the illness. 22 days later, Alexander Litvinenko was dead. On November 1, 2006, after meeting with his two Russian colleagues at the Polonium Hotel in central London, British citizen Alexander Litvinenko suddenly fell ill with mysterious symptoms. A couple of days after Litvinenko was admitted to the ICU, UCL researchers had a brainstorming session with various medical colleagues, pharmacists, toxicologists and colleagues from Public Health England, but could not determine the cause for Litvinenko's unusual symptoms. As a last resort, the highly unusual decision was made to send blood and urine samples to the British government's top-secret nuclear research centre at Aldermaston, which develops Britain's nuclear bomb. The poison was finally discovered to be polonium-210. Polonium-210 is a key component of nuclear weapons. It is 100% deadly. It destroys cells, the immune system, and leads to organ failure throughout the body. When the scientists had determined polonium poisoning as the cause of Litvinenko's death, they warned the government's public health body about a possible radiological contamination incident on the streets of London. Litvinenko's hospital room was sealed and the contaminated hotels were closed. The Health Protection Agency found polonium in an aircraft on which people involved in this inquiry had flown, in a football stadium, in restaurants, in hotels, even in underground stations and trains. The obvious line of inquiry is you follow the radioactive trail, and that's exactly what the investigation team did. Trails of polonium contamination were found across London, and beyond well over 40 sites. The two former Russian spies who met Alexander Litvinenko at the Millennium Hotel were quickly identified as prime suspects. Here Andrei Lugovoy is caught on the hotel's security camera. 15 minutes later, Dmitry Kovtun does the same, spending 3 minutes in the toilets. The bathroom sinks, the hand dryer and one toilet door were later found to have some of the heaviest contamination. On 16 October 2006, when Alexander Litvinenko met both prime suspects, this is thought to be the day of the first murder attempt. The sushi bar where they had lunch was contaminated. They spent the night at the Best Western Hotel in Shaftesbury Avenue. Very heavy contamination was found in their rooms. Lugovoy was back in London on the 25th of October. His room at the Sheraton Park Lane was heavily contaminated. 3 days later he flew from Moscow to London. Polonium was found on the British Airways flight. Cotton flew from Moscow to Hamburg on the 1st of November. Again, polonium was found in the city by German police. This is the day they met Litvinenko around the corner at the Millennium Hotel in the heart of London. On this day he received the fatal dose in his tea. Now the big question is, where did the murderers get polonium-210? Although polonium-210 occurs in trace amounts in nature, it is not abundant enough for extraction from uranium ore to be feasible. Instead, most polonium-210 is produced synthetically in a nuclear reactor. Absolutely everything about polonium-210 is regulated by the state, its transportation is regulated by the state, and its use is regulated by the state. Does that imply that some degree of state control was involved in the killing of Alexander Litvinenko? But why would Russia want him dead? Before Litvinenko fled from Russia to the UK, at a press conference in Moscow, he accused the Russian security forces of corruption in murdering their opponents. After spending a year in jail, he fled with his family to the UK and set himself up as a security consultant for Britain's secret intelligence service. But his work with Western intelligence probably didn't get him killed. Alexander Litvinenko co-wrote a book accusing the Russian secret service of bombing Moscow themselves to justify a new war. Just 4 months before Litvinenko was killed, he made some wild allegations claiming Putin was a pedophile, largely based on this image of the president kissing a boy. However, there is no solid proof that these are the exact reasons why Litvinenko was assassinated. For most of the time Litvinenko was in the hospital, after he was poisoned, nobody knew what had caused Litvinenko's mysterious health condition. The British police had a confusing picture of a poisoned Russian who spoke poor English, a baffling plot involving visitors from Moscow, and a swirl of potential crime scenes. Two detectives, D. Brent Hyde and D.S. Chris Hoare, from the Met Specialist Crime Unit, interviewed Litvinenko in the critical care unit on the 16th floor of University College Hospital. There were 18 interviews, lasting 8 hours and 57 minutes in total. The interview transcripts were kept secret for 8.5 years, hidden in Scotland Yard's case file, and stamped with the word restricted. Revealed in 2015, they are, in effect, unique witness statements taken from a ghost. But Litvinenko is no ordinary ghost. He is a ghost who uses his final reserves of energy to solve a chilling murder mystery his own. 6 hours before Litvinenko's death, at about 3 p.m., Timmins received a phone call from the atomic weapons establishment. It had the results from the latest tests. They confirmed that Litvinenko was terribly contaminated with radioactive polonium. On the eve of his death, Litvinenko released a statement that ends, "The howl of protest from around the world will reverberate in your ears for the rest of your life, Mr. Putin."